Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win, and we're back for another edition of Diablo III. Today on the channel, we're taking a look at the Season 26 starter set for the Wizard, Delsere's Magnum Opus. We're looking at an Energy Twister build here today. Alright, so let's get right into it, shall we? Delesere's Magnum Opus, 2-piece bonus, casting Arcane Orb, Energy Twister, Explosive Blast, Magic Missile, Shock Pulse, Spectral Blade, and Wave of Force, reduce the cooldown of slow time by 3 seconds. 4-piece bonus, you take 60% reduced damage while you have a slow time active. Allies inside your slow time gain half the benefit. 6-piece bonus, enemies affected by your slow time and for 5 seconds exiting take 12,500% increased damage for Arcane Orb, Energy Twister, Explosive Blast, Magic Missile, Shock Pulse, Spectral Blade, and Wave of Force. So we're going to be abusing slow time with Energy Twister here. Right, so we're mostly going to be using a full set of Magnum Opus. As you can see here, mostly a full set. We will be using things to help augment the power of Energy Twister. Her Brash Binding is here to augment the power of Arcane Torrent. I recommend highly you use this weapon, the Twisted Sword. Energy Twister damage is increased by 135% for each Energy Twister you have out, up to maximum 5. The Raging Storm Rune automatically applies to Energy Twisters and allows the tornadoes to merge with 3 additional Energy Twisters. You must run this weapon, guys. Very important to run it as your actual weapon. We're also going to be using Etch Signal to help power up the Energy Twisters even further, thanks to Arcane Torrent that we're going to be using in the build. Rancer's Folly, again, to power up the Energy Twisters, so we increase the amount of damage and it pulls in enemies. Squirt's Necklace to increase the amount of damage, but we rank ourselves a little bit of a glass cannon. Halo of Canary, conventional elements is the rings that you want to run. Slow Time, Time Warp is what you want to run. Energy Twister, Mistral Bees is what you want to run. Teleport, Wormhole for your teleport ability. Storm Armor, Power of the Storm. Magic Weapon Deflection, very important to run that as well. And Arcane Torrent Static Discharge is the way I recommend to go. In the passives, Galvanizing Word, Audacity, Evocation, as you see here. Kanai's Cube, you must run Valtex, Rebuke, Mantle of Channeling, and basically conventional elements. Alright, as you can see for the follower, Nemesis Bracer, Flavor of Time, Broken Crown, everything else is kind of just a afterthought. For the purpose of this showcase, we're going to be using a Greater Rift 60 and a Greater Rift 70 to show you how this armor does. It is a push build, so it's not good at doing super fast clear times. When you get into the Greater Rift, first thing you want to do is cast a slow time. Then you're going to fire off your Energy Twisters. Everything that goes into a slow orb, basically orb, will take increased amount of damage. Every once in a while, you'll fire off a Arcane Torrent while you're in the orb to do increased amount of damage with your Energy Twisters, because remember, we are using Etch Signal. So that's basically how the armor operates. So you want to use a slow orb, have enemies look at you, or you want to place a slow time orb around whenever you see an elite pack, so that way you can do an increased amount of damage with your Energy Twisters. It's a very simplistic build to run. This is probably the more effective way to go with your Delesere's Magnum Opus for your seasonal journey, because the Arcane Orb, Frozen Orb build is not as strong. It takes a lot longer to clear. This is just more easy to micromanage and everything of the sort. Now, in terms of optimization, what do you want to do with this armor? First and foremost, on your helm, I would recommend crit hit chance 6.0%. On your gloves, I would recommend these 3 stats. Crit hit chance 6.0%, crit hit damage 50%, and attack speed at least 8.0%. Those 3 stats on your gloves will guarantee that you're able to climb maybe 10 to 15 more Greater Rift levels with general ease. Further optimization, I would recommend, even though we're not using Captain Crimson on this build because we can't fit it, that you put cooldown reduction 8.0% at the very least, or higher wherever possible, because you want to be able to get your slow time active as fast as possible. And even though we have bonuses in the set armor, it doesn't hurt to be able to get that even quicker, so you can throw more slow time orbs down. So definitely cooldown reduction first and foremost. I would recommend resource cost reduction, because that way you can reduce the amount of arcane energy that you expend when you fire off not only your static discharge, but as well as your Energy Twisters, which is the main source of damage for this particular build. Further optimization, I would recommend that anywhere you can increase the attack stat of Energy Twister by 15%, you do so. Anywhere where you can increase the amount of damage that Arcane Torrent does, definitely by 15%, definitely do so. Everything else is kind of an afterthought. I wouldn't necessarily recommend buffing Slow Time, because Slow Time doesn't do any damage. It's just kind of a passive ability that you use, and based on the set armor, it's the 4 and 6 piece bonus in conjunction with Energy Twister that's really doing the damage. So don't really focus on Slow Time, putting at 15%. Do focus, however, on Energy Twister at 15%, and then Arcane Orb. Very, very important, because you want to get the maximum amount of damage possible there. For optimization, obviously you want all pieces of your gear at least Ancient Legendary or Primal Ancient Legendary. That way you can do maximum stat rolls, and as well as it gives you access to be able to augment the armor in the Kanai's Cube. My recommendation is use Legendary Gems that are at least level 80 to 100, as those will give you about 400%, or not 400%, but 400%, 400 attack extra stat. So very simplistic. Put 3 Flawless Topazes in your Kanai's Cube with an Ancient Legendary item and a Legendary Gem, and you will be able to increase the power by at least 400 if it's 80. Higher up you go, the more increased attack stat that you will get for whatever you're augmenting into the armor. In terms of other type of optimization, I would recommend using here Golok of Swiftness as one of your Legendary Gems. Obviously, I would recommend Bane of the Trap because it works very, very useful for this particular build, and a Bane of the Stricken. Those 3 gems I would recommend the most. They help tremendously. Some people might recommend Teguk. I don't personally with this particular build. Further optimization from there is really just getting maximum intelligence stat possible and everything of the sort. Now, as I mentioned before, this is in fact the starter set for the Wizard class in Diablo 3 for this season. So, if you're new to Diablo, the way it works is upon completion of your Chapter 2 seasonal journey, you'll get 2 pieces of your Hadron's Gift. Upon completion of your Chapter 3 seasonal journey, you get another 2 pieces of your Hadron's Gift. Upon completion of your Chapter 4 seasonal journey, you get the final 2 pieces of your Hadron's Gift. You are guaranteed a full set of your armor, which in the Wizard's case is this armor you see here, Delsere's Magnum Opus. You are not guaranteed Ancient Legendaries to drop from the cachet of Hadron's Gift, and you are certainly not guaranteed at all impossible to get Primal Ancient Legendaries from your Hadron's Gift, because you'd have to clear Greater Rift 70, which you're not going to be able to do before you get your Hadron's Gift anyway, especially if you're playing solo. So definitely keep that in mind. Now, in terms of trying to get the weapons, my recommendation here is going to be a bit different. One way you can go is you can definitely, that was a Greater Rift 60, Torment 13 difficulty, so you see 3 minutes and 56-second clear time. It's a bit slower compared to our faster armor, so keep in mind this is one of those armors you're probably going to use only up to a certain point, and then you'll swap out to either Chantotum Beer or I would say Veil of the Typhon, because both of those are pretty good S-tier type of armors that you would want to use necessary for the Wizard, as opposed to Energy Twister variants, or Firebird even for that matter, is also, despite a couple of nerfs, still a very viable option that will perform maybe better on higher Greater Rifts and everything of the sort. So there's that. So again, for your seasonal journey, things are going to be a little bit different. Usually I would recommend for getting gear and weapons that you need, that you would just do Greater Rifts runs. Probably try to get something like level 70 or level 60, do 3 to 4 minute clear times, and you will run into the pieces of the gear that you need rather easily. However, for this particular class, the Wizard, there are a lot of swords that could potentially drop. So my recommendation would be actually to have to spend a lot more resources in doing so, but it'll get you to the end result a little bit quicker. And so I would recommend buying swords that are rare value and upgrading them. That way you can get the twisted sword that you're going to need for your energy twister, and then you will also get potentially from the two-handed weapon rare swords, you will get the rare piece that you need, which is Valix for Book. It's probably easier to just upgrade the rare and waste all those resources, so I recommend you do a lot of bounties to be able to get those resources to then upgrade it. That's the easiest way to get those 2 swords, because trying to go through Greater Rift runs and Nephilim runs, I've done it to build this armor, even non-seasonal character-wise, and it's just too big of a process, and it's not necessarily worth the type of aggravation and just time that you're going to spend in regards to that. Now, in terms of S-tier leaderboard placement, everything the sort, Magnum Opus Energy Twister is probably nowhere on the list. This is probably a C to D tier armor at best. It used to be much, much better when the Frozen Orb variation wasn't nerfed, but it was nerfed a long time ago. They have buffed this to work better with Energy Twister, with all the buffs to Energy Twister. But again, this is just kind of a mid-tier type of armor. If you're playing Wizard, you probably want to use this armor until you get either a full set of Chantotum Veer, which I do have a build of that available in the playlist for Season 25. All the information still applies. I will get to a Season 26 build of that further down the road. Another alternative is you could get the Veil of the Typhon set armor and use that, as that will help you tremendously with a Frost Hydra build. That will work way, way better than this particular armor. I do have a build of that available in the playlist for Season 25 as well. Same information from Season 26 still applies. I will get to a Season 26 upgraded build of that in the future, but that's far off. I want to get through the starter set armors and then some of the S-tier builds first before we start talking about the Wizard again, so I would recommend either of those two armors, as they would put you in a better position to win, or Firebird even, and to a lesser extent, despite some of the nerfs, will give you more bang for your buck as opposed to Energy Twister Magnum Opus. So I recommend just using this to get any of those pieces of gear and then swapping out for a better build, because you will probably run into a wall eventually. This armor, fully optimized, where we're saying all ancient legendary pieces with augmentations in them. You have the right stats, the cooldown reduction, your weapons are perfect rolls, and everything of the sort. You're probably going to be able to clear Greater Rift 125 to 130 solo in the right capable player's hands. For our players that are particularly maybe not as seasoned and everything of the sort, you might see a drop-off rate lower. In a group of 4, you could potentially clear a Greater Rift 150 with this, but you would be kind of dragging down your partners. You're probably using S-tier build and speeding proofing, so potentially they're probably going to have to carry you, which not too many people are going to be really appreciating Diablo 3. So again, I recommend maybe you just swap out sooner than later. In terms of leaderboard placement, what armors always perform well? Whirlwind Barbarian and all the be-all still. Gears of Dreadland, Marauder is coming up. This armor is not going to do well for the new endgame for Season 26, that being Echoing Nightmare, where you fight waves and waves of enemies. This is not going to do well because it can't handle crowd management, especially when it doesn't have a slow time orb available to abuse its 4 and 6 piece bonus, so keep that in mind. So again, it's not going to help you when you're using your Echoing Nightmares out of either, so you probably want to swap out. Again, Whirlwind Barbarian, Raycore is a pretty good choice. I wouldn't necessarily recommend Necromancer unless you're using Masquerade of the Burning Carnival or Legacy of Dreams. Monk class in Ina's Mantra is still S tier and was going to do pretty well in regards to Echoing Nightmare endgame. Everything's Pestilence Corpse Lance now probably not going to do as well. Okay, Rift Guardian, same strategy as before. We're going to cast a slow time. Then we're going to fire off our Energy Twisters. As it's in the slow time orb or exiting, it's going to take increased amount of damage. We're going to fire a Stag Discharge to power up the Energy Twister even more. So that's basically what we did there to pop the Rift Guardian. You're going to start seeing a drop-off on this particular armor around, I'd say, Greater Rift 75 to 80. That's when things start to become a little too rough for it. So I would recommend, if you can, just going for a different build. This will get you at least a Greater Rift 60, and then from there, probably you'll have to change out, because it's just not worth using all these resources for armor that's never going to perform particularly well in high played. And a lot of people that are doing Season want to see their name on the leaderboard and do everything sort. Speaking of which, I am streaming my seasonal journey as the female barbarian. I'm going to use Raycore build for most of the season. So definitely make sure to check us out on Twitch. Same name, Dreadscape Gaming. That's Greater Rift 70, 4 minutes and 46-second clear time. Like I said, it's a mid-tier armor. This is probably the best way to go with it if you want to make it manageable till you can swap out to something else. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's Diablo 3 video. As always, a like on this video is greatly appreciated. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, definitely consider doing so, as it helps the channel grow. And I will see you for the next one. Until next time, guys.